Alright, so my opponent stated that genetically modified foods showed known health problems. And I have evidence that shows that the FDA and the companies that produce these genetically modified foods are often more regulated, if anything, than the naturally grown crops. For example, in the FDA news release on the 20th of December 2005, it states that effective January 1st, 2006, the FDA is requiring food labels to clearly state if the food labels contain any ingredients that contain protein excuse me, derived from the 8 major allergic foods. So the consumers will already know if they're consuming any type of allergic type of foods, because the FDA already mandates labels that explicitly show the nutrition if they're derived from allergic type of foods. Continuing on, Food Allergen Labeling and Consumer Protection Act of 2004 manufacturers to identify the presence of ingredients that contain protein from milk, eggs, fish, shellfish, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soybeans, and other ingredients, and link to sources of food allergens. And this covers roughly around 90% of all allergic foods that currently exist. So it covers pretty much a wide base of the allergic population, I guess. Also, in a FDA Commissioner Haney interview, she stated that to be cautious, the FDA has specifically focused on allergy issues. Under the law and the FDA's biotech food policy, the companies must tell the consumer on the food label when a product includes genes from one of the more common allergy-causing foods. So again, allergy is not a problem in genetically modified foods. Consumers are safe, and the labels, well, again, explicitly state it. Also, aside from the allergic aspects of genetically modified foods, there are also known health risks, but according to the Director for Center of Food Safety and Applied Nutrition, Robert E. Brackett, stated that the FDA relies on 2 sections of the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act to ensure the safety of food and food ingredients that are produced using biotechnology. And the 2 sections are, the first one, the FDA has the power to remove a food from the market if the food poses a risk to public health. And the second part is that if foods and ingredients are not generally recognized as safe, substance is considered as a food additive, which is an entirely different group from biotechnology foods or natural groups. They're actually considered, I guess, more of a liability. So it requires a lot more strenuous testing to actually pass and get into the market. Alright, so, and he also stated that, considering the Frankenfurt thing, that the companies should have nothing to hide if they don't care about the labeling. Well, the main cause of this would be not because of their lack of confidence, it's because of the costs of labeling. So, according to first, are the consumers willing to absorb the costs of such an initiative? Factories will need to construct 2 separate processing streams and monitor the production lines accordingly. Farmers must keep the genetically modified and non-genetically modified crops from mixing during planting, harvesting, and shipping. And it's almost assured that the industry will pass along these additional costs to consumers in the form of higher prices. So with the addition of costs to label all the genetically modified foods, there will also be an increase in cost because there will be an increase in cost of productions. Because labeling of genetically modified foods also require, farmers and producers to keep their foods separate, to keep identity, if you will. Continuing on from the identity preservation of non-genetically modified organisms. would create several problems and added costs for elevators, basically the production line. While segregation is feasible, it will add costs to both storage and drying activities. The inability to commingle inventories could be especially costly during harvesting, when limited dryer capacity already creates a bottleneck in operations during certain seasons. And going on about the costs of labeling, Liam Johansson from the Missourian stated that most companies operate with a threshold of 1 to 2% seed purity. And what seed purity is it's keeping the seeds pure from any genetically alterations. So a baseline production cost will increase about 9% with a 0.9% seed purity, and if that 0.9% seed purity is dropped to 0.3%, which will mean they're trying to keep their products more pure of genetic modifications, the production cost will jump from about 35% from the baseline. So that's quite an increase in cost. And there are a lot of other causes, like building, 3 fields versus 1 when genetically modified foods are mandatory to be labeled, because oftentimes, like my opponent stated, that the food isn't especially grown in labs. It can be grown in fields. Certain types of cross-pollination can be considered as genetically modified foods also. So what farmers often do would be to create 3 fields, basically. 1 field for their main crop, and which is not genetically modified, a buffer field in between to ensure that the other field on the left, or the 3rd field actually, will not be subdued to the cross-pollination from the genetically modified pollen from the first field. So labeling isn't due to like a lack of confidence or anything. It's because the cost of labeling is already too high. Like my partner stated, in Canada, the cost of labeling were well over $200 million in Quebec alone. Thank you.